AITA for exposing my wife after she posted single and happy while I was right beside her. My name is Ryan. I am 36 years old, and I work as a systems engineer at a tech company in Chicago, Illinois. I am not a millionaire or anything like that, but I earn a good living. It is enough to live comfortably, put a little into my 401k every month, and treat myself from time to time. I have been doing the same job for almost 15 years, climbing the ladder little by little, earning every promotion with effort and dedication. My dad always told me that honest work is the only way to build something that lasts. Those words have stayed with me my whole life. I grew up in a middle-class family in Naperville, a suburb of Chicago. My parents are still married after 40 years together. My older sister is also married with 3 kids and a stable marriage. I always thought my life would follow the same path. Find someone, get married, start a family, grow old together. I never imagined I would end up writing something like this on the internet. I met Jessica 9 years ago at a tech conference in Las Vegas. She worked for a digital marketing company and was there representing one of the event sponsors. I remember that afternoon perfectly. She was wearing a sleek black dress and had her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She had an easy smile and a way of speaking that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. When I approached her booth to ask about her company's services, we ended up talking for almost an hour about everything except work. We exchanged business cards that day. A week later, I emailed her with the excuse of asking something about the event. She replied immediately. We started talking every day, first by email, then by text, then through phone calls that lasted for hours. There was something about her that hooked me from the beginning. She was smart, ambitious, and fun. She seemed to know exactly what she wanted out of life and how to get it. 3 months later, we were officially dating. The first year was amazing. We traveled to New Orleans, to Key West, to Charleston. We spent every weekend together, cooking in my apartment or exploring the city. She introduced me to her friends. I introduced her to my family. Everything seemed to fit perfectly, like pieces of a puzzle that finally found their place. Our relationship was intense from the beginning. Jessica was passionate, fun, and seemed genuinely interested in building something serious. We talked about getting married, having kids, and buying a house together. Everything seemed to align perfectly. We got married 2 years after meeting. The wedding was at the Chicago Botanic Garden, a beautiful venue she chose. About 100 people came, family and close friends. It was one of the happiest days of my life. I remember watching her walk down the aisle and thinking I was the luckiest man in the world. The first few years were good. We moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in the Lincoln Park neighborhood, a great location with enough space for both of us. The rent was $3,000 a month, but between our 2 salaries, we managed it without any issues. She stayed in marketing, I stayed in systems, and we had routines that worked for us. Breakfast together, dinners when possible, and weekends exploring new restaurants or binge-watching shows on the couch. Jessica was always very active on social media. Since I met her, she spent hours on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. She posted pictures of everything: meals, trips, outfits, random moments of the day. At first, it seemed normal to me, a part of her generation's culture. I was never really into social media, but I understood that it was important to her. Part of her job involved managing client accounts, so it made sense for her to always be connected. Over time, I noticed her posts were changing. They were no longer just pictures of food or landscapes. She started uploading more selfies, more dressed-up photos, more content that seemed designed to get attention. Comments from other men increased. Hearts, compliments, messages that felt out of place for a married woman. When I mentioned it to her, she got defensive. "Don't be so jealous," she told me. "It's just Instagram. It doesn't mean anything." I decided to let it go. I did not want to be the controlling husband who checks his wife's social media. I trusted her, or at least that is what I told myself. The most noticeable change came about a year and a half ago. Jessica started coming home late from work more frequently. She said she had meetings, presentations, and dinners with clients. She began taking even better care of her appearance, going to the gym almost every day, buying new clothes constantly. She became more distant with me, less affectionate, less present even when we were in the same room. I tried talking to her several times. I asked if she was okay, if something was bothering her, if I could do anything differently. She always gave me the same answer. She was tired, stressed from work, and needed time for herself. I tried to understand, to give her space, to be patient. What I did not know was that while I was trying to be understanding, she was building a parallel life that did not include me. The day everything changed was a Sunday in October. We were in the apartment, each on our own end of the couch. I was watching a football game on TV. She was glued to her phone as always. It was a normal scene, something we had done hundreds of times. At some point, I got bored with the game and glanced over at her, not intending to snoop, just a reflex to see what she was doing. Her phone was tilted in such a way that I could see the screen perfectly from where I was sitting. I saw her open Instagram. I saw her select a photo of herself alone that she had taken that morning. I saw her type something in the caption, and I saw with my own eyes the words she typed before hitting post. Single and happy. New chapter. I froze. I could not believe what I had just seen. It must be a mistake, I thought. Maybe it was for a friend. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe I had misread. But no. There it was, published, visible to her thousands of followers. While I was sitting less than 3 feet away, Jessica put her phone down and carried on as if nothing had happened. She did not even look at me. She was so calm that for a second, I questioned if what I saw had actually happened. I waited 5 minutes before speaking. I needed to process it. Hey, I said finally, trying to sound casual. What did you just post? She did not even look up. Nothing, just a random photo. Can I see? Now she turned. There was something in her eyes, a mix of surprise and alarm that lasted a fraction of a second before she regained her composure. Why? She asked. It's just Instagram. I just want to see, I insisted. Is there a problem? She hesitated. I saw her hand tighten around her phone. Finally, she unlocked it and handed it to me with a forced smile. There. I don't know why you're being so dramatic. I opened Instagram, looked for her most recent post, and there it was. The photo of her smiling with the caption, single and happy. New chapter. It already had more than 200 likes and dozens of comments. I looked up from the phone and met her eyes. Single and happy? I asked. Is that what we are now? Her face changed. The color drained from her cheeks. She stammered something incoherent before finding the words. It's a joke, she said quickly. An inside thing with my friends. They're all posting the same thing. It's a trend. A trend to say you're single when you're married. It's not literal, she insisted. It's like an attitude, about being independent. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me, I replied. I'm your husband. I'm sitting right here, and you post that you're single for the whole world to see. Jessica stood up from the couch, visibly nervous. You're overreacting. As always. You turn everything into a drama. I'm overreacting? I repeated. You just announced to the world that you don't have a husband. How am I supposed to take that? As what it is, she said, raising her voice. An insignificant post. If you had more self-confidence, this wouldn't even bother you. That last line hit me harder than I expected. Not only was she lying to me, but she was also blaming me for feeling betrayed. I got up from the couch and walked to the bedroom without saying another word. I needed to think. I needed to understand what was really going on. That night, I did not sleep. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything I had seen and heard. The post, her reaction, her excuses. Nothing made sense if she really loved me. Everything made sense if she did not. The next morning, while Jessica was in the shower, I did something I had never done in 7 years of marriage. I checked her phone. I am not proud of it. I always believed that checking your partner's phone was a violation of trust. But after what I saw, I felt there was no trust left to violate. I just needed to know the truth. What I found was worse than I imagined. There were conversations with a man named Kevin. Hundreds of messages dating back over 8 months. At first, they were professional. They talked about work projects, shared clients, and team meetings. But they quickly became personal. He would ask how she was doing. She would tell him her frustrations. Then they became intimate. Phrases like, I can't stop thinking about you, and I wish I was with you right now. Later, there were explicit messages I will not repeat here, but they made it very clear what was going on between them. There were photos she had sent him, photos I had never seen, photos she had taken in our bathroom, in our bedroom, while I was at work thinking about her. There were plans to meet up when Ryan is at the office, or the weekend he visits his parents. They had used my own routine to find windows for their deception. There were messages where she complained about me. She said I was boring, predictable, that our life together had become an unbearable routine. She said Kevin made her feel alive in a way I never had. There was a message from him asking when she was going to leave me to be with him, and a reply from her that made my blood run cold. Soon. I just need to make sure I get to keep the apartment. I'm not walking away from this empty-handed. I literally felt nauseous. I had to sit on the edge of the bed so I would not fall. My hands were shaking. My vision blurred for a moment. 8 months. 8 months of living a lie. 8 months of sleeping next to someone who was planning how to leave me while I thought we were just having normal relationship problems. I heard the shower turn off. I left the phone exactly where I had found it and walked out of the room before she came out of the bathroom. I did not say anything that day, or the next, or for the entire week that followed. I needed to think clearly. I needed a plan. I was not going to be the fool who explodes, yells, and ends up losing everything in a messy divorce. If she wanted the apartment, she was going to have to fight for it. That week I contacted a lawyer. I explained everything to him. The post, the messages, the documented affair, her plans to keep the apartment. He listened carefully and gave me advice that changed everything. In a no-fault state like Illinois, infidelity itself won't be the deciding factor, he said. But you have clear evidence of her bad faith and intent to manipulate the division of assets. You need to document everything before you confront her. Once she knows that you know, she is going to delete evidence and change the narrative. I spent the next 2 weeks gathering everything I could. I took screenshots of the messages when she left her phone unattended. I saved the single and happy post before she deleted it. I documented dates, times, everything that could be useful. Meanwhile, I acted completely normal. I had dinner with her, we watched television together, and we even had some conversations that seemed genuine. It was the hardest acting job of my life, but it was necessary. When I had everything ready, I met with the lawyer again to review the divorce strategy. You have a solid case, he told me after reviewing the evidence. The affair is documented. Her messages about keeping the apartment show clear intent to defraud you in the divorce. We can proceed whenever you're ready. I want to proceed now, I replied. That night, I came home with the divorce papers in my briefcase. Jessica was in the living room as always, glued to her phone, probably texting Kevin. We need to talk, I said, sitting across from her. She looked up with an expression of annoyance. Now what? I took out the papers and put them on the coffee table. This is a divorce petition, I said calmly. It's all filled out. I just need you to sign it. Jessica's expression changed instantly. From annoyance, she went to confusion. From confusion to fear. What? She said. What are you talking about? I know everything, I replied. I know about Kevin. I know about the 8 months. I know you were planning to take the apartment while you were cheating on me. Her face went completely white. How? That does not matter, I interrupted. What matters is that this is over. You can sign now and make this easy, or we can go to court with all the evidence I have. Your choice. Jessica started to cry. I do not know if they were real tears or part of her act, but I no longer cared. Ryan, please, she said between sobs. It was a mistake. I was confused. Our marriage had become a routine, and he made me feel special, but it meant nothing. You're the love of my life. The love of your life, I repeated. The same one you complained about in your texts. The same one you wanted to escape from. I wrote that when I was angry, she insisted. I didn't mean it. And the single and happy post? Was that not serious either? She had no answer for that. I can change, she said finally. We can go to therapy. We can work on this. You don't just throw 7 years away like this. No, I replied. You threw 7 years away when you decided to have an affair. I'm just picking up the pieces. The divorce process lasted 4 months. It was not easy or fast, but it was final. Jessica tried everything to change the outcome. First, she tried emotional manipulation. She cried, called me at all hours, and showed up at my work to talk. When that did not work, she tried aggression. She accused me of being controlling, of having pushed her into another man's arms, of never having valued her. When the accusations did not work, she tried to negotiate. Her lawyer filed a motion demanding 60% of the marital assets and a significant monthly alimony payment. My lawyer presented the evidence, the affair, the messages, the photos, the single and happy post. Everything was documented in the file. The judge reviewed the evidence and determined that while the affair itself was not the legal grounds, her documented intent to financially mislead me was. Her claims were almost entirely rejected. In the end, she kept her personal belongings and a small portion of our joint savings. The lease on the apartment was in my name, and I would be staying. When we signed the final papers, Jessica looked at me with pure hatred. "This isn't over," she said. "You're going to regret this." I did not reply. I just took my copies of the documents and left. The following weeks were strange. On one hand, I felt an enormous sense of relief. I no longer had to live in uncertainty. I no longer had to pretend that everything was fine. On the other hand, there was an emptiness. 7 years of my life had turned into a folder of legal documents and a signature on a piece of paper. I focused on work. I asked for additional projects. I stayed late at the office. I used the time to avoid thinking too much. Little by little, I started to recover something I did not even know I had lost: my peace of mind. 3 months after the divorce, something unexpected happened at my job. The company where I worked was acquired by a larger corporation based in Austin, Texas. As part of the transition, they were looking for employees from the Chicago office willing to relocate temporarily to train the new teams and oversee the systems integration. My boss called me into his office. "Ryan," he said, "I want to propose something to you. We need someone reliable in Austin for the next 12 months. The package includes a 40% raise, a full relocation package, and the possibility of a permanent position if things work out. Are you interested?" I did not have to think about it for long. "Yes," I replied. "I'm interested." 2 months later, I was living in Austin with a salary I never imagined having and professional opportunities that previously seemed impossible. The change was drastic, but necessary. Life in Texas was a complete reboot. New city, new job, new people. Everything was different: the daily rhythm, the work culture, even the way of doing the simplest things. At first, it was hard to adapt, but little by little I found my footing. I rented a small but well-located apartment in downtown Austin. I started going to the gym regularly, something I had abandoned during the last years of my marriage because I was always too tired or too worried. I resumed hobbies I had set aside: photography, video games, just walking aimlessly around the city. I made new friends, people who knew nothing about my past, who knew me only as Ryan, the engineer from Chicago, not as Ryan, the guy who got cheated on. For the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again. Not the version of me that Jessica had criticized, not the version that was never enough, the real me, the one who existed before I started doubting every decision I made. 6 months after moving, I met someone. Her name is Sophia. She's from a Mexican-American family and has been living in the United States for years. She works in human resources for a company in the same office park as mine. We met at a networking event and connected immediately. Sophia is different from Jessica in every way. She is direct, honest, with no games or manipulations. When we started dating, I told her everything about my marriage and my divorce. She listened without judging and then told me something I will never forget. "What happened to you says nothing about you," she said. "It says everything about her. You did the right thing by leaving." One Sunday, while we were having breakfast at a cafe in Austin, I decided to post a photo on Instagram. It was the first time I had posted something personal in years. The photo was of the two of us, smiling in front of a colorful mural near my apartment. The caption was simple: "New chapter, new blessings." I did not post it for revenge or to provoke anyone. I posted it because it was true, because for the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely happy. What I did not expect was the reaction. A few hours after posting the photo, I started receiving messages. First from mutual friends congratulating me, then from acquaintances who had seen the post. And finally, a message from a number I did not have saved, but that I recognized immediately. It was Jessica. "You already have someone else. How fast. Typical of you." I did not reply. Another message arrived. "I'm sure she's using you for your money. They always are." I did not reply to that either. Then another. "I was the best thing that ever happened to you, and you threw it away." I blocked the number and continued with my day. But the messages did not stop. In the following weeks, Jessica created new accounts to contact me. She messaged me on Instagram, on Facebook, and by email. The messages varied between insults, pleas, and empty threats. Through mutual friends, I found out what had happened to her after the divorce. Kevin, the man she left me for, turned out to be married. He had a wife and 2 children in a suburb outside Chicago. The entire time he was with Jessica, he had kept his family life intact. She was just a distraction, some entertainment on the side. When his wife found out about the affair from a poorly deleted text, she confronted him, and he chose to stay with his family without a second thought. He told Jessica that their thing had been a mistake and that he needed to focus on his children. Jessica was left alone, without the lover who promised her a better life, without the husband she despised, without anything. The apartment she so badly wanted to take from me was lost in the legal battle, thanks to her own messages. The savings she thought she would get were protected by the judge's ruling. She had to move back in with her parents in Naperville at 36 years old, into the same bedroom where she grew up, without a steady job and with a divorce as the only outcome of the last decade. Her social media, which used to be full of glamorous photos and quotes about independence, went silent. The last post I saw before blocking her was from months ago. A photo of a sunset with no caption, 0 likes, and 0 comments. I did not feel satisfaction knowing all of that. Nor did I feel sadness. I just felt that, in some strange way, things had a way of balancing themselves out. It has been 10 months since I moved to Austin. Sophia and I are still together, building something real, without drama or secrets. My work is going better than ever. I am considering staying permanently in the United States. Sometimes I think about that Sunday in October when I saw Jessica post single and happy while I was sitting next to her. In that moment, I thought my world had collapsed. Now I understand that a door was just opening that I did not even know I needed to cross. Life has a strange way of working. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead you to the best destinations. Sometimes the people you think are destroying you end up setting you free. And sometimes, just sometimes, things have a way of balancing themselves out without you having to lift a finger. That was what happened to me. And today, I can genuinely say I am happy. Comment. I want to take a moment to talk about the real takeaway from today's video. Sometimes the situations that break our hearts are actually the universe forcing us to respect our own boundaries. We often hold on to people out of loyalty, even when they no longer value our presence. Walking away from a toxic dynamic requires immense courage and a deep sense of self-worth. You never have to lower your standards to keep someone who is unwilling to meet you halfway. Healing begins the moment you choose your own peace over the chaos created by others. Holding on to anger only poisons your future, while letting go allows you to build something beautiful from scratch. I hope you always remember that your value is not defined by how someone else treats you. Protect your energy, trust your intuition, and never be afraid to start a completely new chapter. I would love to read your thoughts on finding peace in the comments below. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.